What's going on YouTube? It's the Old Soldier coming at you today from Robeson County, North Carolina. Once again. And for those of you that don't know where Robeson County, North Carolina is, look on the map of North Carolina, go towards the East Coast. Find the big old growing, wonderful, miserable, stinking city of Fayetteville. And find Interstate 95 and trace yourself south. So you come to the town of Lumberton. Lumberton is the county seat for Robeson County. If you go north of Lumberton till you find a little old town of Parkton, just south of the town of Hope Mills, you will find where the old soldier resides, give or take a mile or four. But anyway, yesterday we talked about the importance, especially with this election, of going out and voting in person. And I'm going to give you a part 2 today. Why? Because I cannot stress enough of the importance of going out and voting in person, especially during this election. That is how critical and crucial it will be. Why? Because of the potential of fraud with mail-in ballots, the potential for your ballot to get lost in the mail, the potential for your ballot to be opened by somebody that's not supposed to open it. Okay? By going to the voting polls and voting in person, there's a much higher percentage of your vote being counted for the candidate for which you voted. Now, I say that percentage higher because in certain states that have used electronic voting media in recent years, there's been some issues of people voting for a particular candidate and finding their vote going to the opposition. And these machines having to be pulled, causing and creating delays in the voting process. Why? Because somebody got caught. Likewise, there is also the issue, even today, in the states that do not require photo ID in order to vote, of people showing up, because it happened here in North Carolina. The mainstream media won't tell you about it because they don't want you to know. They don't want you to hear these stories. They don't want you to think that there's anything wrong with no ID required to vote. But there was a last election, a lady went to vote and was told that she could not, that she had already voted. And she said, how could that be that I just got here today to vote? Because somebody had came in and said they were so-and-so and lived in such and such address. Now North Carolina's always verified it. So if I know my neighbor's John Q. Smith and he lives at 123 Alphabet Street in U.S. City number 1, I go in, I'm John Q. Smith. I live at 123 Alphabet Street in any city, U.S. Here's your ballot, sir. Then the actual John Q. Smith comes in, I'm here to vote. You've already voted, sir. How could that be? Well, did you check your ID? Well, we're not required to. Then how did you know it was me? All right. That's another part that we need to start pushing for, is a mandatory national voter ID law. It's one of the few things that I think that needs to be mandated nationwide, not at the state and local level. At least at a minimum for the national election. All right, now what the states decide to do for their state and local, states ought to continue to handle it, but I think there should be a national voter ID law passed that requires each and every individual to have a valid form of identification, and it has to be a photo ID. Now, again, back to that, they use the excuse here in North Carolina that when you register to vote, you have to show a utility bill with your name on it at the address that you're registering to vote from. Okay. Once again, I can do that. There's all kinds of ways now with the photo ID, and needs to be a photo ID. See, and they used the excuse here in North Carolina the first time they shot down where we passed the law was that it encumbered a minority group of people. I say encumbered. It prevented a minority group of people from participating because of XYZ. But the way the law was written, if a person couldn't afford a state identification card, it would be provided for them at no charge. And then it was like, well, how are they going to get there to get it? Well, my answer to that was, well, you rounded up these people by the van load to take them to the voting polls. Why can't you round them up by the van load and take them to the DMV to get a free state photo ID that serves as a photo ID necessary to vote? Hypocrisy, people. Hypocrisy. And yes, I'm referring specifically to one William Barber, the buffet slayer. If you don't know who that is, folks, go to North Carolina. Or Google William Barber, Reverend William Barber of North Carolina, and you'll see why I say what I say. Some people call him Reverend Soul Glow. The man's big, and he's a hypocrite, and he's what I call a prosperity pimp. And if you do any research on him, he's like Al Sharpton's little brother. Figuratively, not physically. Physically, he's a big man. He's the one that come out and started the Moral Monday protests here in North Carolina. Long story short, though, what I'm getting at is that, he can organize people to take people to go vote by the van load, but can't do the same to take them to the DMV to get a free state photo ID. But if it involved getting benefits, I'm sure they would be able to do it. But seeing how it means showing a photo ID when you go to vote, we can't do that. It's just an impossible task. The hypocrisy, folks. The hypocrisy. At the end of the day, if we want to protect this republic that we hold dear, that we want to protect the liberties and the freedoms that we have, we're going to need to go to the polls in person, folks, and vote. And vote. And then we're going to need to require our governments at the local, the state, and the federal level to mandate irrefutable and irreversible voter ID laws in order to protect our vote. Because you've also got those in Congress that right now they want to abolish the Electoral College and go to a popular vote. Well, that takes us from being a republic to being a true democracy. We're a republic based on democratic values. There's a reason that we are a republic. And those reasons still remain the same as to why we should stay a republic. The countries that have the democratic vote or popular vote for their national elections for the leadership of their nation, we see the demise all the time. But let's just go back into history. Why did the Greek Empire fall? Why did the Roman Empire eventually fall apart? Because eventually what happened was they abolished republic principles to be superseded by full-blown 100% democracy that turned into mob rule. That's why we have a republic, in order to protect the interests of all, not just the mob, the majority. What do I mean? In modern day parlance in the United States, it would be giving Chicago, New York City, Atlanta, Georgia, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Seattle, Portland, Dallas, Fort Worth. It would give the large urban population centers the power to run the country. Because their vote would not only affect policy and precedents within their own state, but the rest of the nation. Why? Because of majority mob mentality. Much like what Antifa and BLM is trying to spread right now across the nation in order to institute communism. And we must not let that happen. Think about what I've said, folks, and let that sink in for a while. Tell me what you think in the comments below. If I'm way off base, tell me so. If you think I'm a fruitcake, let me know. But if what I'm telling you is spot on, let me know. Until tomorrow, my friends and my fellow patriots, Soul Soldier out. God bless. Take care.